You won't believe I've developed a crush on a married woman. I only calmed down after Jordan shared their story. It started 5 years ago. They actually had a romance back then when Gatsby was still an officer. But then he had to leave Daisy for the front lines. During this time, Daisy silently waited for Gatsby, but he never looked back throughout the war. Tom seized the chance, wooing Daisy with a $300,000 plus pearl necklace. She married him out of Ithay he replaced with no option. But on the day of her wedding, Daisy received a letter from Gatsby, and reading it made her change her mind immediately. Unfortunately, her family wasn't having it, so she reluctantly tied the knot with Tom. Just 1 week after getting married, old Tom began to reveal his true nature, even though he pretended to chase after her on the surface. At every party, he hoped she'd join him, and finally, Nick realized, oh snap, all of this was just for Daisy. At this moment, he saw a man's loyalty and persistence in love, yet felt moral confusion, unsure of actions. Until he spotted Gatsby waiting outside like a lost puppy, earnestly hoping for Nick's decision. Gatsby looked like a kid caught red-handed, with his mansion lit up and ladies everywhere, yet he clung to the purity of love. Meanwhile, the day after they met, Tom took his mistress out, proudly flirting with others before Nick. The contrast at this moment was so striking that people couldn't help but exclaim, "It's truly amazing." As a result, Nick silently made up his mind to steer Daisy towards Gatsby, who, in return, wanted to offer Nick a highly paid job as a reward. But Nick flat out refused. As a former writer, I'd rather witness beautiful love than taint it with a business deal. Soon, the big day arrived, and Nick woke up to find Gatsby had staged an extravagant scene for their date. Not only was the yard spotless, but the room was filled with flowers, and Gatsby was as nervous as a suspect. Nick eagerly waited, but Daisy fled. Gatsby returned in the rain. Eventually, he mustered courage to meet Daisy, awkward at their reunion. To ease the vibe, Nick desperately tried to create some alone time, but Gatsby was hot on his heels. Gatsby bravely re-entered, with Nick waiting outside like a child. Choosing to keep another secret, he fervently hoped this time wouldn't end in disaster, and miraculously, their eyes locked tightly, and Nick found it hard to tear himself away until a loud crash broke the spell. Outside, the rain finally stopped, and the clouds scattered like the misunderstandings between them. Gatsby told Daisy that across the bay was her home, and gazing at it from his mansion would be quite the picturesque scene. He then invited Daisy into his dreamy castle, and with just one glance, she was head over heels for this fairy tale home. At that moment, Gatsby realized his wealth finally meant something, and he led Daisy into the opulent interior. The luxurious and extravagant scenes before Daisy's eyes left her completely dumbfounded. It was simply absolutely astounding. The late happiness pained Daisy's heart. She was already married, and some things were just impossible. To keep up appearances, she smiled and said it was the beautiful clothes that touched her heart. Gatsby then pulled out all of Daisy's related stuff, stuffed with his love. Every letter screamed his feelings. Watching this love-struck man, Nick found it simply unbelievable that the rich around him were usually flamboyant partygoers, and Gatsby was definitely an exception. Witnessing their affection, Nick felt a pang of worry, and soon after, Gatsby confided his true identity to Nick. His real name was Gatsby. Surprise, surprise, he's just a farmer's son. He never accepted their small potato destiny. At 16, he packed his bags and set off to make a name for himself. That year, he stumbled upon a stranded yacht, and thus began his globe-trotting adventure with a wealthy partner. During that time, the millionaire taught him everything about high society. But when the billionaire kicked the bucket, Gatsby didn't inherit. Instead, using what had learned, he shot to fame and fortune in New York. Talk about a legendary tale. This wasn't just juicy gossip all over New York, but also raised eyebrows from Tom, especially since most wealthy folks are a bit shady. Gatsby, a businessman with many experts, had Tom eager to know his origin. Just then, Gatsby arrived, interrupting with grand introductions of politicians, but uniquely introduced Tom. Tom was totally uncomfortable. He sensed Gatsby's hostility, and then one remark clicked it all into place. Turns out Gatsby's target was none other than his own wife. But Tom was completely oblivious to this layer of reality. He thought Gatsby was just a wannabe. After all, Tom was Daisy's husband. And Gatsby signaled Tom to dance with his wife. Tom agreed, yet felt jealous inside. I asked him where the devil he met her, and Nick was at a loss for words. Thankfully, Tom got distracted by a nearby beauty and wandered off for small talk, giving Nick a breather. Everything here was meticulously crafted by Gatsby for Daisy, but she said she wasn't a fan of all this noise. Once Tom vanished, they sneaked into the woods, and lo and behold, Nick caught them red-handed. Stuck in a bind, Nick had no choice but to act as a lookout on the balcony as Gatsby and Daisy shared a cozy kiss. Just when the mood was right, Daisy suggested eloping, leaving everyone shaking their heads. What on earth are you thinking? Would be the punchline.